Within Oversight, you have a list of all of the entities that you've added onto Sift. And this gives you some key information which helps you get a sense of how well each entity is tracking within various different categories. You have a score for each of these categories except for the transaction category, which we'll look at a bit later. And this is indicated by a color and a percentage to show you how healthy the business is in terms of either its finance, its sales, or its data quality. You then have a few key metrics which have been included, and these are used in calculating that score. So these would be some of the metrics that you'd want to keep track of. Within each of these tabs, so when I refer to tabs, I'm talking about financial, sales, transactions, cleanup, anomalies, or the build view. Within each of these tabs, you could search for a specific entity. So I could go search for Jay's Cupcake Company. I can also filter any of these tabs by clicking on filter, and you can then go and select from a filter that's already been created. For example, I could select all entities that have cash less than 0, and then I could apply that filter. And now you'll note that all the entities that are showing have a negative cash. And that might be useful if you want to go and identify companies that have a cash flow issue. You could also go and create your own filter. So we could click on add new filter. And here we can give it a name. So we're going to say healthy businesses. And we could then select a field. So you'll see various different options. I'm going to choose the financial score. And then we need to select the condition. So we can say if it's equal to, greater than, or various different options. So I'm going to say greater than 80. And then you can choose if you want to share it with your organization. So this filter will then be available to everyone in your organization, or to only allow this filter to be available to you. And you'd then select only me. You can also choose if you want it to show in the sidebar. So if you toggle this off, then this filter won't show in the sidebar and you'll have to come and select it from one of the options. But if you show on the sidebar, it will populate in that sidebar, which will make it easy to apply going forward. I'll show you that in a minute. So we're going to click save. And now we just need to go and deselect the old filter. Make sure we've got the one filter we want selected, and we're going to click apply. And now you'll see it's only showing us entities with a financial score that's above that 80. If we go to the sidebar, we'll also see that there's this healthy businesses filter. And if I were to click on this, it will take me directly to a filtered view of my financial view, where it's only showing me entities with that financial score above 80. So that's how you can use the filter option and add it to the sidebar for easy access in future. You can also create a filter for one of those fields that we previously created and populated under overview. So to do that, you click on filter, and then you're going to click add new filter. So I'm going to select one of those fields that I previously created. So we're going to select accountant responsible. And an example or a use case for this field would be if you want to keep track of how well one of your accountants is managing their clients. So here we'd select the field to be accountant responsible. We'd select the condition to be whenever the accountant is equal to Sue. And we could choose if we want to share this with our organization or just make it available to ourselves. And we can then name it Sue's Clients. And then we can click save. We then make sure we've selected the filter and then click apply. And now it will filter that long list of entities connected to Sift for only those that relate to Sue. So these would be all of Sue's clients, and we could then go and consider if they are performing well or not. And you can do the same for each of the other tabs. You can do each of these tabs in different ways. We're currently looking at the current period's information because we've selected current, and the period we're looking at is determined with the universal date selector at the top. So we could change it to quarterly or daily, or even to a more specific period, and we could change the month that we're looking at as well. We could also go and look at the growth, and what this will do is it will show us the growth as compared to a previous period. So it'll either show us the growth since the previous period, which in this case would be month, or to last year's value. So we could change it to prior last year by just clicking on that. So here you can get some perspective because you're able to see not just the performance in the current period, but how that compares to a previous period. We're currently looking at it in a tabular format, but we can also look at it in a graphical perspective. So if we click on this button over here, it will show us the same information, but now more visually. And this makes it easy to see which client has the highest total income, or for example, those that are not doing well. So it's just a different way of looking at the information. We can also choose to hide totals and to pivot the data to get a different view of it. We can also copy this tab and use it as a base for a build oversight view where you can include customized columns, but we're going to explore that later when we look at the build view. The final view available under Oversight is the Build view. And if we click on Build view, you can name this new view that you're going to create. So I'm going to call it Client Management and click Create. And now you'll see that Sift has created this new Oversight view with a list of all the entities added onto Sift. You'll note that there are no columns, and that's because within the Build view, we can choose which columns we want to use. And the Build view is a great tool because it gives you a blank canvas to add any columns that you would like. Here you can include a combination of metrics that you want to monitor for your entities. So you could add information from the financial, sales, transactions, and even the data quality tabs to get a good overall view of what's happening in your clients' businesses. You can also add equations if you would like, and I'm going to go show you how to do that in a minute. So to do that, you're going to click on Add Column, and here you'll see there's several different categories that you can add information from. Some we will be familiar with, for example, financial health, sales health, and the cleanup or anomaly section. But you'll note there's some additional options. So for example, we could add profit and loss accounts or balance sheet accounts. We could also include equations and either pricing or organization fields. So let's go and add some financial health metrics. And here, if we click on the columns, you'll see there are quite a few more options. So we only had a few columns within the financial health tab, but here we can go add additional things like net margin and the VAT or GST payable, and even the current ratio or net assets. You can select as many as you would like, and then you can click Apply. You'll now see that these columns have been added, and if I click on this little box, I'm able to go and delete any of them if I no longer want them, and I'm also able to go and rename it. So I could change this to net margin for the period and click Save. It's also really important that as you make changes, you save this view, because if you move away from this view without saving it, your changes won't be saved. We can go and add additional columns from any of the other categories. So let's go and investigate some of the additional options under sales. So within sales health, we are familiar with new and active customers, but here we'll note that there's additional options to add. For example, the discounts given, the sales gross profit, and the average products per purchase. So we could go and add any of those items if they're relevant to our client. So let's go add the discounts given and unique products sold. We can then click Apply, and you'll see that those sales columns are now included in this Oversight view. Again, we can go add columns from profit and loss, and here you'll note that we can add many different profit and loss accounts within our entity. We could also add balance sheet items. So here we could go and include things like the cash and cash equivalents or the inventory balance, or we could go and keep track on something like our short-term debt. We can also go and add items from audit cleanup, and again we have some additional columns such as old receivables or payables. And then we could also add from audit anomalies, and here you'll see some additional anomalies as well, like classify accounts. Finally, let's go look at the transactions column, and here we could go and add some additional transactions such as system journals or customer or supplier payments. We could also go and add credit notes, and credit notes, whether they're either standard credit notes or supplier credit notes, can often be useful in giving an indication of something's wrong. If you're issuing a lot of credit notes, something could be wrong with your products, and if you're receiving a lot of supplier credit notes, something could be wrong with your supplier's products. You can go and add as many different columns as you would like, and they will all pull through to this view. Remember to click Save, and you'll note that you have all of the same functionality. So you can filter the data, you can look at it in current growth or as a growth percentage. We still have that graphical view. Let's go and look at the last column. So that would be the equation column. So we can select equation, and then we can either add an equation that's already been loaded, for example, gross profit percentage, or we can go and add a new equation. To build a new equation, you're going to click on Create New Equation, and here you'll have to name your equation and select an appropriate format, and then build it out here. And to build it out, you can include things such as profit and loss, balance sheet items, cleanup transactions, and even those custom fields. So We're not limited to equations from just one statement or even to just financial information. So we could go and create an equation, for example, gross profit per invoice. And that will be including items from your profit and loss and your transaction. So just as an example of how you can include information from all of these sections. So I'm going to say gross profit per invoice. And now I'm going to go build this out. So I'm going to include my gross profit from my profit and loss. And you'll note that I can include the current and the prior in my equation. So you have that option there to build out a more complex equation. I'm going to click save. And then I'm going to divide that by my number of transactions and specifically my invoices. Again, you can include current or prior and click save. You can go and include information from all the other sections, but for our equation, this would be sufficient. And we can then click create. We'll then make sure that we've selected this column and then click apply. And now you'll see that Sift will add this new column, which is gross profit per invoice, to my oversight view. Again, when you're done, don't forget to click save. And now you have this new client management view where you can include all the key metrics that are important to you. I've obviously included quite a lot to show you what's possible, but I suggest that you tailor this to include only the aspects from each of these sections that's really relevant to your clients, along with some key equations. Don't forget that you can also build out a new build view by copying one of the other views. So we could go to cleanup and then we could click on duplicate. And now this will be copied across as a base for a view, similar to what we did with the sales build. And here you'll see we have all the same functionality as within the build view. So we can go and add any of those columns and information as we've just done with this client management tab.